things that are low cost to you but high value to the person you're negotiating with. Take a look at the other people's goals and interests. Try to predict what might come up. Maybe excuse me. Maybe you've got a lot of the same interests. Maybe you've got different interests, but you could work together. Maybe you're an exact opposite. Check what it is, what's low cost. Okay, that's from a TV series that's not around anymore called Fairly Legal. She was a professional negotiator. There was a bunch of things that just happened. Taking a look at these bullet points here, low cost items, things that didn't really cost either side terribly, with high value. So first of all, putting away the gun. So that was sort of reframing it a bit. That was sort of put away. That's not because it's making all of our lives simpler. It's not about my side. It's about what's best for you. You don't want people walking past and getting into trouble. Okay. Yeah, the cost of getting shot. Let's factor in what this is all going to cost. The guy in the shop did end up getting robbed. Okay, he lost 20 odd bucks worth of stuff, which he made up in minutes. If you'd watched the rest of the snippet there, you'd actually see that he still charged her $5 for a coffee. So she got it back, but very low cost to him, but it was high value to the guy because he was actually getting $50 worth of beer and jerky. He was still walking away with everything he could carry. Low cost to one, high value to them. That's what we're aiming for. And we could look at that with each of our scenarios. What's something that's low cost to the other party but high value to you? I'll choose one example, which is not on our list there, but when we're doing tenancy, I'm a landlord. I've also been a tenant. I've had more tenancy agreements than most people as a tenant, but also as a landlord. One of the things that for me as a landlord is really high value is if you're going to look after the garden. If I've got to pay a gardener, then that's actually going to cost me quite a lot. Mowing the lawn, people will charge you $60 a shot. High value to me is not having to look after the garden. Low cost to the tenant is, yeah, mowing it, that's hardly any effort at all. I'll keep the garden tidy, happily do that for you. And there may be other things like that. I went to my tenant and I put weather strip pieces at the bottom of the door, which cost me $3. And I did it myself, so installing it cost me, I don't know, an extra 10 minutes. But it meant that they didn't have a drafty house. So I did that throughout the house. It meant that their fuel bill went way, way down. So for my $3 investment, weather sealing the windows and the doors, so probably cost me $10 in total, the client got a huge high value out. The tenant got a huge value out of it. The place was much nicer. I kept my tenant longer. I don't want my house sitting empty. So $10 to save me 1 week's lost rent. That's a pretty good value. Part of it is we're going to frame the solution in terms of the other person's interests. So, yeah, putting away the gun with the scenario we just saw. She could have said, I feel safer if you put the gun away. He's not so interested in that. Instead, she said, I think it's in your interest to put the gun away so no one sees you. Kind of okay with that? Cool. There's the classic example here of if you want a $4 raise but they offer you $2, have you gained $2 or have you lost $4? If you're the boss, you're wanting to try to frame that as a $2 gain. In the video we just saw, she was talking about the cost of getting shot. So you've just saved yourself the cost of getting shot, which was a couple $100 plus all that lost effort, plus you get shot. That hurts. They tell me. Does that make sense? So the stuff that's in the other person's interests, it's in your best interest to keep me on as a client because It's in your best interest to keep me on as a tenant. It's in your best interest to pay me more because. That's a good question to ask yourself. What's going to be in the other person's interests? And we could look at that for each of our scenarios. A couple of last points, and that is that people get very emotional. So I'm going to focus on what the problem is, not what the personalities are. That bitch who's the doctor, the nurse that's holding back the medication review, yet whatever. We're not interested in the personality, we're looking at the problem. Manage your own emotions as well as theirs where possible. It is possible to win a battle but lose the war. You might get your medication review, but if you still have to live in the psych hospital, they're going to treat you worse. It might be that you get your WHS rights being met, but you've ruined the relationship for future purposes. So keep that in mind, focusing on the problem. We could look at that for each of our examples. This is the quick summary. That's the important stuff for you to plan in advance. Can you see how, I know this sounds like a lot of technical crap, but can you see how that's going to make a big difference when you're face to face with your client? Is if you've at least looked at some of it, so face to face with the person you're negotiating with. Okay. Yes, that will be on the eLearn page. I can't put my hand on my heart and say you can do each of these things yet. We're going to actually have to role play and practice, but you get now what the practice is that you need to do beforehand. That's what we're preparing for. Let's break out some scenarios and take a look at it, and we'll get ready for some role plays.